Hi guys, how we doing? Barstool RDT here, riding solo for the 14th episode of the Barstool DMV Baltimore podcast. Banks has some prior obligations, so he's working on that. But then we will also be back with you tomorrow with Terps freshman basketball player Andrew Terrell, 14th guy on the bench. Had a good article in the Washington Post about him. Very funny guy, the towel-toting freshman, as I call him. He will be with us tomorrow, so lucky for you guys, you're getting two episodes of the Barstool DMV podcast. This one is going to be more heavily on the Orioles. Big stuff happening in the last week. I know Banks and I last week and for the last few weeks have been talking about the possibility of the Orioles signing Yovani Gallardo and Dexter Fowler. It seemed like both were going to happen, one more than the other a few times this week. And here we are Thursday night, and the Orioles have only signed one. That is Yovani Gallardo. He agreed, and then the deal got pulled, and then agreed again to a 2-year deal. It went from a 3-year deal, $35 million. Orioles saw something wrong with his MRI, and it sounded like his shoulder. They had some concerns, and they wanted to get a better look, almost like the Grant Balfour deal a few years ago. They didn't like what they were seeing, which when you're 30 years old and you've played baseball for as long as he has, or as long as any of these guys have, you're not going to have a clean MRI. You're not going to have a good-looking shoulder after throwing the ball, hundreds of thousands, probably millions of times over his career. Your shoulder's not going to look good. It's not supposed to. The human body is not meant to throw and that many times. So, of course, his shoulder looked bad. They kind of worked their way around that. They agreed to a 2-year deal. I think with an option for a third. It was 2 years for $22 million, I believe, and then an option for a third, and it could get up to $35 million. So the Orioles have their another pitcher to add to the rotation to partner along with Ubaldo and Tillman and Gonzalez and Gossman. So Yovani could fit right in there. They are all righties, which doesn't really bother me. I know some people are kind of freaking out about it, but if it doesn't bother Buck, it doesn't bother me. If any manager can make this work, it's Buck. He can kind of he'll be able to play with the rotation enough where no one's really getting hit too hard. So they signed Yovani. We were all pretty pumped about that. They did give up the pick for him, and in the middle of that, they had agreed to terms with outfielder Dexter Fowler of the Cubs. Guy I wanted all along. I thought he would have been perfect in this lineup. We were dreaming about a guy like that. He can steal 20 bases. He can hit 20 home runs. Gets on base. He's good on base percentage. A lot of walks last year. I think 88. Can play pretty good defense in the outfield. I think he would have been perfect out there in right field next to Adam Jones. They would have covered an insane amount of ground. I don't know if any balls would have hit me. Would have fallen in between them. And it seemed like they had a deal. I think it was 2 nights ago, Tuesday night, where that was reported by the Orioles. It was reported by Rock and Ken Rosenthal and John Heyman, all of them. So the Orioles, again, had agreed to give up their pick for him. So they had given up the 14th pick and the 28th pick for Gallardo and Fowler. And so we went to bed last night just absolutely dreaming about this perfect lineup. Fowler up top, Machado, Jones, Davis, Trumbo, Wieters, Scope, Kim, and Hardy. Kind of put those in any order you want. Really good-looking lineup, 1 to 9. Arguably one of the best up there. Someone had said the Cubs lineup before this was pretty good, and also the Blue Jays, they were the first lineup to jump into my mind about the best lineup. I think this lineup easily could have hit 220, 230 home runs, just the starting 9, not including your reserves and guys like that coming off the bench. So it seemed like it was a match made in heaven. 3 years, $33 million, which is an absolute steal for a guy like Fowler, I think, who probably thought he was going to get close to $60 or $70 million coming into the offseason. So we wake up this morning. Talk is still, the Orioles, they did it. They got Gallardo. They got Fowler. That's, $280 million payroll. They're spending. They want to win now. They're giving up these draft picks in order to win now. Guys loved it. Adam Jones specifically talked about how he had spoken with Dexter Fowler about how he was excited to play with him. And now that Fowler can stay healthy, he plays 150 games a year. He'll be able to play, he won't be just penciled in the lineup every day. It's going to be that same guy. So Jones was talking about how he had Markakis to his left for the first 7 years of his career. And then last year it was different, obviously, with the situation. He had, I think it was like 10 or 11 different guys playing right field. He had his guy out there. Fowler would have been that guy. Wake up this morning, the talks are still that, great job by the Orioles and Dan Duquette and Angelos was finally opening the checkbook. Around lunchtime, I start seeing these tweets about Dexter Fowler is signed with the Cubs, and everyone's thinking, no way, that's bullshit. He didn't sign with the Cubs. He signed with the Orioles last night. He's on his way to get his physical in Sarasota. Turns out there had to be some sort of miscommunication because this thing went to absolute hell, and now it's name calling, and people are pointing fingers and calling each other liars. And I think the real losers in all this are Dexter Fowler and his agent Casey Close. It came out that Fowler never did sign the deal. It's just an agreement, no pen to paper, which, okay, you can still do that. You can back out. But the fact that it pretty much sounds like he had spoken with Adam Jones and said, I'm excited to play here. The way that Jones was talking, it made it seem like they had had a conversation. Adam Jones isn't just going to lie and come out and say this just to say it. I believe that Adam had talked to Dexter and that they had talked about him coming there, and he said he was excited to play there. I just don't get why Jones would come out of nowhere and make up this BS. It seemed too perfect. I think the Cubs knew exactly what they were doing. Theo had some comments where it kind of seemed like, oh yeah, we kind of knew what we were doing. We wanted to lie and wait and stuff like that. And I think that they had told Fowler, hey, go get it, go talk to Baltimore, find out what their offer is. And once you find out, you can come back to us and we can discuss to try to get something done. So that's what ended up happening. He ends up taking a 1 year, $8 million contract. I think there's a $5 million buyout, but then there's a $9 million option. So he goes from a 3 for 33 guaranteed money, $33 million guaranteed, to 1 year, $8 million guaranteed with a $5 million buyout and a $9 million option. I don't get why you're going to go to the place where, number one, you're going to get less at bats because now you have to fight with Schwarber and Soler and Bryant, maybe Bryant in the outfield, Javi Baez and Jason Hayward for at bats. Where is Dexter Fowler going to fit in there? Because you can't, Schwarber's not that good in left. He's not good in right. He's not good at catching. But if they're going to put him anywhere, they're going to stick him in right field and like Little League hope that no balls get hit to him. Hayward's going to be in there every day, and you got to think Soler and Baez are too. So number one, he's probably, who knows how many at bats he's going to get. He would have gotten 650 at bats if he was with the Orioles. He's also getting less money. I don't get it. I think I did hear that he did want the option after the first year, which is what it is. He got an option after the first year, and there's no way that the Orioles were going to give up their pick just to lose a guy after 1 year. I know they did it with Nelson Cruz a few years ago. I think that was a later pick, something around the 53rd pick. This is a high pick, 28, and I just don't think that they were going to do that. It's just confusing. I don't know why. I know the Cubs, they're 4-1 favorites to win the World Series. The Orioles are 40-1, but at the end of the day, why do you turn down that much more money to go to a place where you're going to get maybe a third of the at bats that you would in Baltimore? That's very confusing to me. It makes me think that they kind of not planned this thing all along, but they had this kind of in their back pocket because it came out that he had flown to Phoenix last night and took his physical, and they were announcing it to the team today. None of the team knew last night. They were announcing it to the team, and he had his own little show today where he showed up, during the middle of their practice and walked on the field in his Jordans and jeans and all that, and everyone had a grand old time. It was wonderful. It looked like the happiest time of their lives. So I don't know. That all came together too perfectly for me to think that this kind of fell apart over the 1 year option. And it just seems kind of sketchy. And Fowler's agent, who from Excel Sports, it's Casey Close, came out with a statement today. And it says, quote, "In my 25 years in this business, never before have I witnessed such irresponsible behavior on so many fronts. Both in the Orioles front office and members of the media were so busy recklessly spreading rumors that they forgot or simply chose not to concern themselves with the truth. The Orioles' willful disregard of collective bargaining rules governing free agency and the media's eager complicity in helping the Orioles violate those rules are reprehensible. Dexter Fowler never reached agreement with the Orioles and did not come close to signing with the club. Any suggestion otherwise is only a continuation of an already disturbing trend. So if he never reached agreement, then why 2 nights ago when Rock and MLB and John Heyman and Olney and all them are tweeting it, why wouldn't he come out and say something? Or why wouldn't his agent come out and say something? Because something like this happened earlier this year, and it was with Darren O'Day. And Darren O'Day just simply tweeted something to the lines of, this deal is not done yet. There's still things to be done. Why couldn't Dexter or his agent come out and say that? Fowler had no problem today coming out and retweeting all the people praising him for coming back to Chicago. But it seems like he was asleep the last 2 days when there were reports that he had signed with the Orioles. But he obviously didn't feel the need to come out and say anything to dispel those rumors. So I don't know. I think you talk to Jones, because I don't think he would lie like that. Adam would. I think he talked to Jones. I think he kind of maybe he went back and talked to the Cubs. He got cold feet. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with him and his agent. Maybe it was a misunderstanding with Fowler and the Orioles. Maybe Dan Duquette thought that they had a deal in place. They started talking. Something's fishy. It doesn't. This isn't something that the Orioles would do on purpose. And now people are giving the Orioles shit and their beat writer stuff for reporting it. Well, it's kind of hard not to report it when it seems like it was a done deal. And obviously, one side thought that there was an agreement. Like I said, Adam Jones was mentioned talking to Dexter Fowler about how excited Dexter was to play in Baltimore. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. I'm hoping that some more details will come out. This could be some juicy behind-the-scenes stuff. I don't know. And like I said, Casey Close is a friend of Buck Showalter's. He played with, or I think he played under Buck when Buck was a manager in the Yankees minor league system. So they may have some off-the-record phone calls that are pretty interesting. But right now, it makes the Orioles look kind of foolish when it really shouldn't. I think it's the Cubs and Dexter Fowler who are doing. If someone is to get the finger pointed at them, I think it's one of them. Kind of shady, just how they went about it. Not a real big fan of it. I like Dexter Fowler. I could give 2 shits about him right now. It was just a weird kind of how everything went down. So now he had checked off a bunch of the Orioles the boxes that they needed: a switch hitter, a right fielder, a leadoff guy, and so now the Orioles are back out at the 11th hour looking for someone to fill those boxes. I heard that this may mean good news for Joey Ricard, the Orioles' Rule 5 pick. Guys obviously like LJ Hose, Nolan Reimold, Dariel Alvarez, people like that are now it's probably going to be one of those guys fighting for a job there. I also saw that people are saying now we should go after Ian Desmond, former shortstop for the Nats, try and convert him to right field. It's a lot. My guess is I've never played major league shortstop or right field. But my guess is it's not that easy to just kind of drop everything in a month and a half, before opening day to just pick up a right field glove or an outfielder's glove and try it. So I don't know if Desmond would be good at it. I know he turned down a qualifying offer too. So he again cost a draft pick, which the Orioles obviously aren't afraid to give up. There's also been names like Shane Victorino, Alex Rios was out there, a few other guys. They're escaping me right now. So it's interesting. Austin Jackson was another one too, who he could kind of fit that same Dexter Fowler mode. It was just kind of interesting, like I said, how it all went down today just so quick. I went into lunch thinking that the Orioles had one of the best lineups in the league, and 20 minutes later, their new acquisition leadoff guy was ripped right out of my hands. I felt like Shooter McGavin after he saw Happy Gilmore sink that putt and just realized that everything's running away from him. And then he went and stole that jacket. So just a shitty way to go about it by the Cubs, and not necessarily the Cubs, but Dexter Fowler and his agent. I think if Dexter did have a change of heart, just come out and say it. Don't because he's kind of coming off like an asshole right now. I know the Orioles they're gonna go on without him. I know Adam Jones tweeted earlier tonight. I like the guys that we have here. Don't stop trucking. So that's about it with the Dexter Fowler stuff. Just like I said, disappointing all around. That would have been great to add. A guy like Dexter would have been perfect for it. It's not going to happen. Like I did mention, the O's, we can focus on someone that the Orioles did manage to sign, pen to paper. He was on the practice squad or the practice field today, Yovani Gallardo. I mentioned earlier the pitcher, right-handed pitcher, has been with Texas last year, and then the Brewers the last few years. He's been money. I think he's had his last 7 seasons. He's had 190 innings or more in 30 starts, and so the Orioles needed a guy like that. He's on 105.7, the radio station. They had the Texas Rangers color commentary guy on a few weeks back, and he was describing him. He kind of put him in the same breath as Ubaldo, where he said he's going to throw 100 pitches through 5 1/3 or 5 2/3. He's going to struggle to kind of get through those early innings. But I mean, he makes the pitching rotation better. I'll tell you that much. He's better. He's better than Tyler Wilson. He's better than Mike Wright. He's better than Vance Worley. So, and I'd rather go into opening day with Gallardo at a 2 or a 3 rather than have Mike Wright or Tyler Wilson at a 5. Let's let them maybe they can get some starts in AAA. If Gallardo shits the bed, or say Miguel Gonzalez comes out last year like he did, if Chris Tillman still doesn't look that good, then you can throw one of those guys in for a spot start. But I just didn't. I feel a lot more comfortable with this rotation with Yovani Gallardo over a guy like Mike Wright or Tyler Wilson. And so now it's interesting to see what they'll do. Do they try and trade maybe like a Vance Worley for, who knows if they could package him and maybe a TJ McFarland or someone like that, maybe one of their hitters, Walker or someone like that down on the farm, and maybe they can try and get a corner outfield guy. Someone's going to get hurt in spring training. Banks and I talked about it last week. A pitcher's going to get hurt. He's going to go down. Vance Worley will be there. I think he's making like $2.5 million. So that's a little pricey for a guy who is going to, probably be making most of his starts in Norfolk. So I just think it's a good job that the Orioles at least got that filled this offseason, the starting pitcher role, which I know we would have liked them to go after Zimmerman, or they weren't going to go after Price. We all knew it. No Price, no Greinke, anything like that. The one that I thought that we should have gone after as well was, I've said the name a million times on here, is Doug Fister. That would have been nice to see. So we got Gallardo out. He's wearing Bundy's old 49, so it'll be interesting to see. Bundy's another guy who's going to be, I guess he's got to be on the team. It'll be fun to watch this year. He's basically our Rule 5 pick. He's the Jason Garcia this year. If they put him on waiver, I think he has to pass waivers. If they send him down, he's not going to pass waivers. Someone's going to scoop him up, and that's the Orioles aren't going to let that happen. Bundy still has way too much talent in his arm for them to give up on him. I think that we've got to at least see what he says, or see what he can do. I know Banks is in favor of throwing him out there every 5th day and kind of having him take those beatings and just learn from it. Because are they going to try and hide him in the bullpen like they did with Garcia last year? He'll come in blowouts, games where they're up big, games where they're down big. It's not really what we want to see. That he's not going to get better like that. We saw Jason Garcia struggle hard in those times where he's missing high. He's almost hitting Joey Bautista. You're not going to get better in things like that. So I think it should be interesting to see how the Orioles handle Bundy. Like Banks and I had also said, they're probably going to try and stash him on the deal at some point this year. So maybe they can get that extra guy in the bullpen, because right now in the bullpen, going into the season, you don't have many open roster spots. This team is pretty much set, except for now Fowler opens up another spot. So in the bullpen, you're looking at Zach Britton, Darren O'Day, Michael Givens, likely he has options though. Brian Mattis. Then you got Bundy out there. Then do you have a guy like Vance Worley, or do you have a guy like TJ McFarland? McFarland can be that lefty long guy you need out of the pen, maybe make some spot starts. I know people have been clamoring for starts too for a while, and this may be the spring training where he does get stretched out and they try and get him to do that, because right now he's pretty much just a situational pitcher where he'll come in, when he needs to face a lefty, a David Ortiz, someone like that, who he can get out. But I don't know if I see him getting stretched out back to a starter. That'll be tough. And you know what? I'll tell you what. I don't know if many people in Baltimore want to see that. It was a lot of times last year he came in and he looked bad where he's walking the first guy, getting the first guy on somehow, and that run will end up scoring. So it'll be interesting to see, like I said, how they manage this bullpen. You know, who knows if Chaz Rowe has a spot anymore. Tyler, like I mentioned, Tyler Wilson and Mike Wright are probably they won't be spending that much time in the pen. Probably just down in Norfolk making some spot starts up here maybe in case someone gets hurt. So we will see about that. I know Buck did report that he was liking what he saw from Bundy. I know it's hard to judge off just watching a guy throw soft toss from the mound. But right now, I guess at this point, any news is really good news on Dylan Bundy. His arm hasn't fallen off. His shoulder isn't under on a Dr. James Andrews. So, like you said, Bundy will be on the roster this year. Has to be. So that kind of limits the bullpen a little bit. I think the Orioles, their lineup is now like I mentioned before, going back to that leadoff spot. Is it going to be Hyun-Soo Kim, who I don't think will start the year at the lineup or at the top of the lineup? It'll probably be back to Manny right now, unless they go out and sign an Austin Jackson or someone like that. I'll be the first one to say I don't know too much about Joey Ricard and how he will fit onto this team, or if because he's another Rule 5 guy where if they put him on, he has to stay on. So I don't know if Buck wants to have that two Rule 5 guys pretty much with him and Bundy. It'll be tough to manage basically with a 23-man team because they have to stay on. And maybe we see Nolan Reimold stick out at the leadoff spot, and he can play some right, which isn't really what I want to hear. I'm not the biggest Reimold fan. I know he can put up some numbers, but he can't stay healthy. We've seen it his entire career. The potential's definitely there, but he has that Peyton Manning tinfoil neck it's held together with paper clips and tape and stuff like that. So who knows if he can stay healthy. Yeah, I guess we just got to find that leadoff guy now. So we'll see if someone can separate themselves in training camp or if they go out and find someone. I think that is all we have for right now. Just wanted to get some quick words in on the Fowler situation and Yovani. Tomorrow, actually, we will be having Andrew Terrell on, like I mentioned earlier. So this one will be up as well. And then we will have Terps basketball player Andrew Terrell on with us. We will be back next week, Banks and I. Hopefully with some better Orioles news. Maybe they'll have this whole Dexter Fowler situation handled, and then we can go from there. Let's hope that the Orioles make a few more moves in the next few days. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.